So VueJS is another JavaScript framework that lets you build your websites and applications faster and more efficiently. One of the main features of VueJS is its declarative approach. What does it mean? Give me a minute and you will understand. Assuming that you already know a little JavaScript, I'm gonna start right away by giving you an example of the same app written in plain JavaScript and with VueJS. So let's imagine a very simple app. It contains a number and the number changes when you click on a button. So when I click on a button, you can see the number incrementing. So how would we do this with vanilla JavaScript? We output this element and give it an ID so we can target it with JavaScript. Then we add this button with ID. Then in JavaScript, I will select both of these elements and declare a variable for the number and add an event listener to the button. And when we click the button, the variable's value should increment by 1, and now we need to reflect the new value of the variable onto the screen. So you can see a few things happening here. You have to change the value of the variable, then we have to find the element that outputs the value and change it there too. Like if we remove the part that outputs the change onto the screen, the variable's value will still change, but you can't see it. Now here's the same code written with VueJS. Here in the data we declare the same variable, and on the button we add an event listener that increments the value of the existing variable. And the value is just rendered here. So what happens in this case is that we do the same thing, but we don't have to output the variable every time it's changed. VueJS will do it for you. So you can manipulate your data in different ways and you will know that what's on the screen is the latest state of this variable. And of course, this is not what VueJS is all about, there is more to it. And the most important thing about VueJS and similar frameworks is that it lets you divide your app into different components. For example, here in plain HTML, you can see it's divided into header, sidebar, footer, and content. And here's how it would look with VueJS. So these are the building blocks of your app. And each of these blocks is on its own. It has its own styles, its own behavior, and these components are basically independent. Now, how do you get started with VueJS? There are two most common ways to use VueJS. You can just add it to your existing HTML as a script, then create an empty HTML element that will act as the container of your app. Then start coding your app right there in the script tag. Or you can use the setup that you can find in the docs. So if you run this command, you can see that it creates a folder that is already structured for you. And you have these sample files that help you understand how it works. For example, there are components, the building blocks that I was just talking about, and there are views, which in simple words are pages. And it has this routing system, and you can see that it's basically the list of URLs of your website. And if you run npm run build, this setup will compile your website into an HTML, CSS, and JavaScript, which you can then upload to your server. This was a quick introduction to VueJS. If you learned something new, don't forget to click the like button and subscribe if you're interested in web design and development tutorials.